was considered way too heavy for a battle tank, especially one with a lot of complicated architecture on it. Not until the Abrams came along was 60 tons considered viable.
Well,
And the
if they learned anything from the Germans in World War II, it wasn't to build giant heavy tanks with complicated suspension and drive systems.
yeah,
like,
that's what this was, and it was horribly expensive at the time to do mass production on. And it was kind of a weird tank, vulnerable in a lot of ways, but it was designed for the nuclear battlefield, the only tank specifically designed for that, and it never made it out of prototype. But it's kind of a weird, cool-looking tank in its own way. But it was just considered too heavy at the time, and even by today's standards, it's too heavy. It weighs as much as an Abrams tank, and an Abrams tank weighs 20 more tons almost than any main battle tank in the world. We're the only people crazy enough to be like, that'll work. Put a jet engine in it.
well, because that's the other thing too. Because wasn't the Mouse pretty much the heaviest tank the Germans actually made and got running and almost pretty much put in production?
Yeah, well, yeah, it got out. It was out there. And they took naval artillery and put it on it. It's like, that's its cannon. That's wildly effective, except it can't cross most bridges and or roads.
And can't cross rivers because it'll just flood and fucking die.
16-man crew in a tank or something like that.
Train tank. Just put it on train tracks.
Yeah.
Might as well be Big Bertha.
I mean, because that's the other thing too. It's like as soon as it goes above a certain weight limit, like you said, roads, rivers, everything becomes giant, basically giant. Like, nope, you can't cross here because the infrastructure can't support it, and you can't have.
Boy, I hope the Allies don't bomb our infrastructure.
They wouldn't do that.
Have a heart. Just bomb our civilians.
Okay. Hi, Dresden.
No problem. Done and done. How about delayed fuses? Yep.
How about firebombing wooden structures like Tokyo? Yep, okay, that's good.
How about we do it twice?
And we do it in crisscrossing X patterns to create the firestorm. We literally want to vaporize people just from the heat effects of the fire burning. Okay, how about if we split atoms? Yep. How about if we unleash the power of the sun? Yeah, we can do that. Why not?
Why'd they drop Sunny D on them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another weird Cold War project.
So how much?
As soon as I saw it in the window, it's like, that's mine.
So how much was that by the way?
$52, I think.
That's not bad at all.
No.
So what's the thing on there that says 3-in-1? What's that about?
Well, you can do, when you put it together, there's different pitches you can do on the tread. You can have it really high off the ground, or you can have it really low to the ground. Or like, I'm doing the high version, like the Swamper version, just because it looks so odd. But you can actually do the pitch of the suspension to where it just looks like a regular tank with quad treads on the front.
Okay.
So, and this is the classic. These are the treads you build. Each of those individual.
Yep.
There is this many of them.
Well, if you ever need extra tank treads for anything, then
Yeah. Well, I have a tank jig that I made out of a block of wood. So I just line up all the treads in it, because it's length, and you put them together. So otherwise, you're going to be holding them up with your hands and putting them together one at a time. There's actually a tool you can buy for that tank modelers use, where it's adjustable. It's like two pieces of aluminum that slide together. And I'm not going to spend $65 when I can get two pieces of wood, because I'm cheap and don't care. But yeah.
Well, if it works, it works, then.
Yeah, well, that works most of the time.
Oh.
I mean, there's some guys. There's like next level stuff. It's it's like I was looking for something to punch holes in styrene, and they have a kit for that. Or I can use a paper punch and just shape it down to size after I attach it, because the kit was $79 just to punch holes in sheet styrene, or I can go buy a paper punch at Target for $2. there's some things I will and won't do. It's like, well, that doesn't look as good. It's like, you're probably right, but I don't have unlimited amounts of money.
Well, I mean, because I was gonna ask you at some point your airbrush setup and stuff like that, because I've been looking at getting one for myself eventually here, probably within this next year, as long as nothing goes horribly wrong somewhere else. But been looking at Iwata and been looking at their actual like name brand stuff, not their off-brand shit that's like $50 and it sucks.
Oh, okay.
Because the Iwatas I've been looking at is basically the ones that are like around 170, 180.
Yeah.
And then the compressor is usually about 200 with it and shit like that. So
yeah, that's about the right price range. I use Posh, but only because of parts availability.
Yeah.
Because if anything goes wrong, I can immediately get it replaced. The only problem I've heard with Iwata is you can buy a lot of the units here, but they don't have a lot of spare parts. It's all got to come from Japan.
Oh.
Unless you know an Iwata distributor or something, they'll probably have like needles and stuff. But basically, I use Posh because it was recommended to me, and the store that I buy all my models and stuff at, they have everything Posh. It's like, if you want a 7mm needle with a note, we have that, So. I'm not saying that one's superior to the other. It's just, that's what I use.
No, it must be nice because, I mean, we don't have anything, at least that I know of around here, that is like an actual store that has, like, my hobby store has a little shitty airbrush you can buy, but that's it. There's no, like, oh, here's the air compressor, here's needles, here's seals, O-rings for it and shit. There's none of that. There's just, like, oh, here's this little thing, I hope you like it, and that's...
believe me, the only reason I build models like this is because I have the best model store in probably the tri-state area, a mile from my house. Like, there's a lot of model stores around here that like they have some model stuff. They do a lot of RC stuff, and they do some model railroad stuff. They have a little bit of everything. This store is just models. It's just plastic styrene pockets. They don't, because people will come in there and be like, "Do you have any RC stuff?" No. Do you have model trains? Nope. And then there's guys in the model club that like they do both. It's like, yeah, I got a whole model train set up in my basement and I build models, and it's like, wow, you like have a crack habit worth of cost and all that stuff. I do RC helicopters too. It's you must have won the lottery. Who has the time for all
Nope,
that?
I just stayed off meth.
Just didn't use meth, ate those 2 Whoppers.
No, it's just something where it's, I was looking at Facebook because I was trying to sell some stuff today just because I'm running out of space and don't need shit anymore and just trying to part with things. And there was somebody that tagged me like, oh, hey, go to this tournament here in 2 weeks in Hampton, Iowa. I'm like, where the fuck is Hampton, Iowa? It's like fucking northwest of Waterloo and closer to like the Minnesota border and shit. And it's like this store called like North Central Iowa Hobby Shop and More. And I'm like, oh, okay, this must. I have no idea. I've never heard of Hampton. I figure it's like a decent enough sized town to have a decentish hobby shop, because they have a post on there saying like, oh, when you spend money today, like here's the entry fee, but whatever money you spend, like if you spend it on food, half has to be on food. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then I look at pictures of the inside of the store. It just looks like somebody's basement with a couple like tables and then like a counter where people sell stuff at, even though it looks like there's no product around anywhere. So it almost looks more like a gaming store, as in like you go there and game. You don't actually like get any models or supplies or anything. And
it's just a playing area.
It seems like it, because they also have like pictures like, oh, here's all the Xbox games we have and shit. And I'm like, oh, I can go play video games there and go play tabletop
it's like
games.
A golf course for tabletop games.
And I have to buy 2 hot dogs?
And it's like, well, okay. And then I look at their hours because I'm like, well, I've never heard of this store, because the only other store that advertises tournaments on my Facebook thing is like in West Des Moines, so that's a way bigger city. But it's just something where it's like, oh, okay.
At that point, you might as well just go to fucking Chicago.
Well, it's like they're only open Thursday through Saturday, 5:30 at night to 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was like,
Business model.
yeah. It was like, well, it's
Catered
like
to
Is
the
this
night
a
out.
business or is this just hanging out at Bill's house?
it kind of seems
This is the most complicated drug deal I've ever been to.
it kind of seems like it, but it's like an hour and 45-minute drive, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to drive an hour and 45 minutes each way to try out a new store and see what's going on.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, it'd be nice because I hear about people going to Iowa City and other shit, which is a lot closer, but supposedly those are always jam-packed with shit too, so I don't know.
Well, it's like they had one of the biggest model shows in like mid-Michigan and the Midwest was at this place up north of here, and it was like 4.5 hours there. And a bunch of guys were going. It's like, you going to that? It's like, no. It's like 9 hours of driving alone. You know, like, I'm interested, but I got the internet. I can look at models all day long. So yeah, I'm not going to that one. I have like an hour range. I consider that my footprint. Like, I'll drive an hour anywhere, but you get into multi-hour things and especially when you're there and back is like 6 or 7 hours. Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys because our last tournament was this last Sunday, and a bunch of guys like, oh yeah, you going to Adepticon? And I'm like that's one in Chicago, right? They're like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not driving 4 hours and like a fucking van full of guys in the middle of the week to go drop a shit ton of money on models and like watch people. Like, hey, it's like, yeah, it's one of the biggest model combos of the year and shit. But if you don't get your ticket like back in November, you're not going unless you buy some scalpers tickets while you're there, just to get in and buy shit because that's all you're doing. And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to do is just throw my see if I can scalp a ticket, drive 5 hours. And, well, you may or may not get in.
And you can walk around after because you spent all your money to buy anything on the scalp ticket.
Yeah.
Because there's like tournaments and shit there too, but I don't know if I'd ever do that because that's like a 3-day tournament. That's a big time commitment to take off work in the middle of the week to drive 4 hours each way to go to and stay at a hotel for 3 days too, just to try and do something. So I don't know.
That's weird. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard of like a midweek.
I always thought it was on the weekends, but this year it was midweek. I'm like, okay.
Oh, is that something they just did for this year?
I don't know.
They're trying to get out of the way of something else.
Maybe, because I thought it was during the weekend last year, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but maybe not.
Yeah, because when I went to PAX, it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Maybe it was
the furry convention or something.
FurCon is here.
They should just have
get your fursona on.
They should just have it at the same time, like, I'm a virgin, me too, but that's because I dress like this.
Yeah, just have that whole con all in one roof. Tabletop, furries, role-playing games, and just call it the Rainbow of Virginity. It's like you look around some of those videos where people are at conferences like that. It's like, you know why guys are virgins, right? There's no pussy in sight here. It's like nothing. What are you doing?
Yeah, but you can fuck a guy in a woman fursuit.
Do that. I want to fuck someone who's in a hot...
2 people lost their virginity that day.
With my luck, I'd walk up to some guy and like, you know why you're still a virgin, right? He's like, speak for yourself. I get as much man ass as I can handle.
You know how desperate and lonely these people are for attention? They paid to be here.
I see more cock.
If you don't know what you're doing.
It's like I see more cock here than I do at my 5,000 chicken farm back home. Well, I brought some models, some of which are painted and some of which aren't, because it's mostly religious heretics that fight for the God Emperor, and then just like demons that shove flames out their fist.
So is this like Catholic-inspired models?
Well, like the Emperor is like the guy for the Imperium is like a psyker, and he basically is like a living skeleton on a fucking throne at this point.
Oh, okay.
But it's just those guys, the guys that aren't painted, the gray guys are all like elitist guys that are sworn fealty to him, and they're gonna go purge the galaxy of all evil and blah blah blah. And
classic Space Marines.
Yeah, and then, well, yeah, classic Space Marines in a lot of ways, yeah. I call them Faith Marines.
Okay.
Because it makes sense.
It does.
But, yeah, otherwise, on the other side, you have what they call Pink Horrors. Because they worship the god of change. So that's why they have, like, multiple different limbs and all this different shit shooting out of every orifice. And weird stuff. So, I mean, they're just...
Yeah, we have that around here, too.
Well, detoxing is hard.
Yeah.
Like, so don't judge. No, yeah, there's a lot of intricate stuff to, like the Grey Knight kit's pretty awesome. They literally shoot mind bullets out of their weapons, so
Okay.
that's kind of interesting. And they have all
arm configuration. Is that like 2 arms coming off of the right shoulder?
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's everything's different. There's like enough arm sets in there, like no one guy's the same as far as like, you know, posturing and stuff like that.
Template. Yeah, well, it's the god of change, so yeah, of course.
Yeah, and all their models are kind of cool. They have like these stingrays that like fucking swim on fire and like bite people and shit, and fucking yeah, just a bunch. Like they're a huge demonic god. There's like this giant bird, like vulture thing with like wings. It's like colored like a peacock that has like a giant staff and a gun. So, you know, just normal shit.
Yeah. Like the big hammer.
Yeah, that's the what is it? Just it's like a relic power hammer. So basically, just
The literal war hammer.
yeah. And one of those is actually cobbled together because they only give you one hammer in each $50 kit. So I cut the other hammer in half from the $60 kit and glued it together because fuck them. I'm not gonna buy 4 $50 kits to get 4 hammers in a squad like I'm able to take. So. There's one guy that's magnetized in there because he can be a character and hold a banner to make everybody go, yeah, we love God. Or some shit, because otherwise he's holding a spear. I can't remember if it's... Here, sorry. I think it's this guy. Yeah. Okay, it's you, because you're not... Nobody would be holding a spear like that. But, yeah. If you don't do it right, the banner spins a little bit, so it seems like he's evil. Because I can only get 2 magnets in the arm because it was the elbow bent too sharply. Otherwise, yeah, he just...
oh, okay, I see.
Now he has a banner to make everybody believe in him better.
That's cool. He's like the drummer boy of the Psychonauts or whatever, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the banner's pretty cool, too. It has this, like, a giant knight, like, stabbing a sword through a demon dying on a field. And shit, so it gets pretty like all all the detail on these models is like fucking fantastic for the money. See, now it's gonna spin. It's like an ancient sign spinner or a future sign spinner.
It's what do they call those people that spin the flags in the
the color guard.
Yeah.
He's a cheerleader of the 41st one. But no, there's
Go Tigers.
But no, there's so many fucking cool models in 40K and even Age of Sigmar. But I still can't get into Sigmar. The lore is not that as catchy, and it's just the game is not as solid, so I don't know.
Yeah.
At least I don't... Yeah.
Well, they won't stop coming up with new stuff until you run out of money.
Oh, I know. Because they just unveiled the Keeper of Secrets at Adepticon, and God, does she look really fucking good, but I don't know if I'm going to pay $150 for that. Me is bad enough paying $40 or $50 a model kit. You got this guy, he's really pissed off. He's got a bird beak.
I'll turn that sideways. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's got like a cult icon type thing that like inspires leadership too. So he's just... Because those guys, like rule-wise, they just shoot weapons out of their hands. Even though it doesn't look like it for some reason.
It's like one of the things from Cloverfield. The weird mouth.
Well, those things, you pay enough points, like, it literally becomes a Russian nesting doll. So if you kill one, it becomes the smaller guy, this guy.
Like I was giving the sign of the devil, like he's just at a concert or something.
Yeah, I know, that's what I like about those guys. Look like they're at a rock concert pretty much all the time. But if you kill him, it becomes this guy, the smaller blue guy. And then if you kill that guy, it just becomes a pile of flames that has a smile or whatever. And then after that, they're dead. So it's like a weird wrestling nesting doll effect.
Oh, okay.
Because I guess that codex used to be broken around the beginning of this edition because you pay points for your army, but you don't have to pay reinforcement points back then. So people just took like 3 full stack units of those and were just like, okay, shoot me. And then people shot up and then they just popped up. Because for every one of these you kill, like 2 blue horrors pop up. And for every 1 blue horror, 2 brimstones pop up. So you start with 30 guys, and then by the end of the game, you have 120 things on the board for the same points, and they won't die. And it was just like, oh, okay, we can't win because it'll just basically turn into fucking something else.
Swarm attack.
Yeah, basically. But then they fixed it and said you actually had to pay for it. So then people got pissed and they stopped bringing them. So not as popular as they used to be. But I think they're really fucking cool models. Not that I think anything GW does for the most part, besides a few things, aren't really cool, because they all look good. Especially like the badasses holding like 2 swords and a gun, being like, come on, motherfucker. Like, let's go.
One for you, one for me.
2 swords and a gun. They're definitely ready for something.
You need to like get a guy with 2 swords and paint him up like on the cards, like the king with the swords.
Oh. Well, because my paint scheme for them is going to be, I have some metallic red paint in the mail. And so I'm going to do metallic red and then silver highlight and then just do like a white. Because their shoulder pads are supposed to be, because you can't really see it because of the fucking camera and shit, but like all their shoulder pads and everything else has like letters and words inscribed all over all of it. So it says like Terra and like machine and all this other shit. So it's all this just...
Over to the right. Am I right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it just has words engraved in the shoulder pads.
Yeah, you could get some really cool detail out of that.
Yeah, they're really good detail models. I was very disappointed though because there's only one color scheme on record for those guys because there's no other chapters. There's just that chapter. So I was trying to come up with something else because I don't really just want to paint them just all silver and then with a red streak somewhere. It doesn't really lend to it being very cool.
Oh, okay.
Or at least I don't think it does. Focus.
I think I have
I'm waiting for it to focus.
No, I think I have to get my face out of the way because it wants to focus on my face.
There we go. Oh, okay. You could do bronze raised letters.
Yeah, and I was thinking kind of the same. Like there's a force weapon glow because they're psychic weapons. I was gonna do like a kind of like a light lilac purple type glow coming from all that stuff, like the swords and the hammers and shit. Because I think it would complement the. I was going to go for a more dark red metallic because I have red metallic from Vallejo coming, but supposedly it dries pinkish. So I was gonna test that and see how it was. But I also have Vallejo's metallic acrylic thinner coming, so you just do half and half, and it makes whatever paint you want metallic.
Yeah.
So it just shades it up brighter. So I have some like a dark rose I got from Vallejo today, and some other Vallejo reds. I got to try and test that out.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Just gonna get like a cheap box of Space Marines and test it out on them, and then actually paint those guys because the 10-man squad's $60 a box and the 5-man squad's $50 a box. So it's not. I mean, you're not gonna get more than 2 boxes of each of those in a 2,000-point army because they're fucking expensive as shit. But they'll still be worth it. That's why I want to airbrush though too, because the metallics go on way better with the airbrush than they do with an actual brush. Sadly, at least I think, because it doesn't seem like, especially because that's when I did my night that I showed off. Like I literally went and bought special spray paint that was the color I wanted, because otherwise I was never gonna get that smooth a finish with a brush. It just doesn't work that well, unfortunately. I like Moonface guy. I guys did him today.
The guy from, was it McDonald's?
Yeah, the guy from Moon Pies. Like, have a moon pie.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
he's
he's
like that movie. What was that called? Where the people were shooting the creatures of the night.
Trying to think.
Yeah, it was one of those goofy horror movies. But yeah, they had a moon guy with a face like a crescent moon.
But no, Sometime I should bring some of the discs of Zeech guys I made, because they're ungodly fucking fragile as shit once you make them, because you have to leave them 3 or 4 parts to paint them, because they're that detailed and that. Because once you put them together, there's no way to fucking paint the underside of anything or the inside of a lot of shit. So you usually have to put it together, but there's only like 1 or 2 really fragile connections with super glue and zip kicker to get them to go together, and as soon as they hit any resistance, they just shatter. And then you have to keep putting them back together again and again until eventually the super glue builds up, and you have to shave it off and try again. And yeah, I still have 2 boxes of those at home. I haven't put together because of how much of a hassle it was to do 6 of them, let alone 12. So yeah, I really like the pink rocker dudes. I got another 20 of them to paint though. So they don't take that long though. It's just like a what do I say? A duller pink, a red wash, a lighter pink over the muscles. It's the more standout ones. Dry brush of like a peachy skin color, and then just filling in like bracelets and medals and tongue and eyes and stuff.
Pinky demons from Doom.
Like that's the blue one I did this morning. The test theme of what I was doing, because I was finally using Vallejo stuff that I bought, because I haven't used Vallejo on anything else I've had. It's all P3 and Games Workshop paints. And I was gonna get some agitator balls here soon for my Games Workshop paints, because they fucking dry out like no other.
Yeah, AK Interactive sells those balls now, and you just buy them and they come in a little jar.
Oh, well, because Army Painter does, because we finally got a full Army Painter display for like all this stuff for basing and hobby tools and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's like 100 metal ball bearings for like $6.
Yeah.
So it's not very expensive.
No, I put metal ball bearings in all my paints. I have a paint shaker too. So.
Does it seem to make them last longer and make them more fluid, or?
It makes them easier to work with.
Ah.
Because I use a lot of flow improver and thinner, depending on what I'm doing. So. Because I'm one of those light coats guys where you just paint it with the first coat and it barely looks like it's covered.
Oh.
Because I don't like to lose a lot of detail, so I shoot probably thinner than I should, but I don't. It's like, why are we having raised surface detail if I can't see it? So.
Yeah, because I was actually watching a Vallejo test video of their last range of metallic primers they put out to see how airbrushing worked with their air model, because that's mainly the paint we have from Vallejo at the shop. We just have air because that's what he wanted to get in. And it was just like, oh, you're going real thick on that detail, buddy. It was like, because he already base coated it with black, and then he went over with bronze, then he went over with black again, then he went over with gold. And it was like he was laying it on extra thick. I'm like, I don't know if you're going to be able to make out that lion's head on that gladiator helmet, but okay. It's like, I guess we'll try.
I got some of those Vallejo metallics around here. I'm not going to dig through everything, but yeah, I use those to make exhaust, because I have there's a burnt chrome, and I have some other effects I can put on to make it look like, you know how rainbow metals when you get it, or metal rainbows, like the bins and exhausts, and I can do all that. They actually have one just called hot metal.
Oh. Well, there's
alcohol-based ones. Because some of the Vallejos are alcohol-based and some of them are water-based. And so the chrome and the burnt metal Vallejo metallics are all they're like Tamiya paints. They're just alcohol-based, so it's a whole different cleaning regime. And
well, because I know, do you know it's a website, greenstuff.com?
I know what green stuff is. I've never been to the website though.
Well, I mean, they sell stuff like you can green stuff a base or put clay on it, and then take a rolling pin and go over it, and it makes everything like it's supposed to, like, you know, cobblestone street, bunch of glyphs and other shit. They have these chameleon paint sets. There's 10 different chameleon paints, so it'll look yellow, and then you turn it in the light, it turns purple or pink.
Oh, okay.
It's all metallic, and they have like 10 different shades. Each paint set I think is like $29 or $25.
Sounds about right.
And it's like, I thought about getting them, but I just don't know what I'd use them on. Because there's somebody at the shop that uses them for all his Game of Thrones Ice and Fire minis at his game and shit, but I haven't figured out what to use them on yet, because I think they'd be a cool effect for like a futuristic type thing, but I have no idea what. Because there's the green purple one I think is probably the best one, but there's a lot of weird funky color combinations.
Yeah. All
right, movie this week.
This week, 1999's Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's last film, and it's one I enjoy a lot. I don't know, what do I like about this movie? Well, it looks beautiful. I enjoy the pacing in it, and I enjoy the fact that most of it seems like a dream sequence. I know there's a lot of vigorous debate about what's real and what's a dream, but it has a dreamlike quality to it. Literally from the time him and his wife have the conversation about how, she wanted to cheat on him, and he's not, why aren't you jealous of me, and that, to his whole adventure out in the city and into the most elaborate orgy ever filmed. It all has a dreamlike quality to it, but then it also seems to be like, oh, this might be reality.
I like how when he said his adventure into the city, it just sounded like some lost little child. Like,
oh, kind of, yeah.
Paddington Pear wanders into a sex orgy.
Yeah. Well, this movie reminds me, before we do any background on it, just my impression of this movie was like, oh, this is like a 70s kind of erotic drama, just filmed in the late 90s, because they don't make erotic drama films anymore. And this was, but then I found out, like, oh, Stanley Kubrick wanted to make this movie for a long time. This was just, he took some weird hiatus from 1987 to 1999. And then decided to make this movie, which is the longest shoot in history.
Yes.
The longest production cycle in history or something.
Well, I was trying to parse it out, like, what exactly do they mean by that? Because, like, there's been longer movies, like, oh, we took 4 years to make this movie, but, like, I think it's like 400 days of, like, shooting, but that can really mean anything. Like I was telling Andrew, like, sometimes Kubrick likes to, like, take time off in the middle and then, like, work on stuff, but that means, like, they're shooting B-roll and shit like that in the off time, but they're not actually shooting the movie. Because, like, this, like, monopolized, like, Tom Cruise's time. Like, he could have been making, like, 3 other movies at the same time, but his contract wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
He could have made Mission Impossible 2 years earlier. But instead,
well, this is one of those things that, like, it was a passion project for Stanley Kubrick, and then it also became a passion project for Tom Cruise, who actually voluntarily gave up a lot of stuff just to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Because Tom Cruise is a good actor, and he does a pretty good job in this movie of kind of being Tom Cruise, but not, exactly being Tom Cruise, because he's not a hero in this.
No.
And this was one of those perfect things, like, because Stanley Kubrick's daughter, there's a documentary you can watch about this movie, because there's a lot of weird rumors about this movie, like, there's 30 minutes that the studio cut that Kubrick actually filmed. It's like, no, it's not true. What he gave them was what they put out. They didn't cut anything out of it.
Although, didn't they say something like they didn't finalize the music, but they have like his cut, and that's why the music's kind of weird in this movie?
Yeah, well, because he died 6 days after he gave Warner Brothers his final cut of the movie.
Yeah.
Before the music and stuff was mixed in, because they used, like, filler music, and because they didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with because the music was important, and they knew, like, some things they definitely wanted, but the kind of the scenes where he's just walking around the city and having weird encounters with, like, prostitutes and the guy renting uniform or costumes and all this, that stuff was they sort of kind of had a general idea what they wanted to do, but they hadn't quite worked that out yet.
Yeah, because some of the scenes he's walking around, it's almost like a horror movie where it's just like a single note drawn out and stuff like that.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, there's a lot of that, and it's kind of, it's like you said, it's sort of incongruous. I thought maybe that was done on purpose. I hadn't heard this thing about the soundtrack till later, but yeah, it seemed kind of, like I said, this was the closest. A lot of, this almost is like, oh, David Lynch could have shot this film. Like, it had a lot of weird logic in it. And it was,
well, especially like that costume shop where, like, all the characters are like all the characters are acting differently, and like it's like what is actually going on, and everybody's acting like they're in a different occurrence of time.
Yeah, it's like they're not living in the same place. 'Cause there's these two old naked guys with this Russian dude's daughter, but they're all acting weird. Everyone's acting weird. That's what's it's just like, oh, this reminds me of David Lynch. I forgot how strange this particular and striking this scene was too, in the costume shop. But I guess this was like Stanley Kubrick's, when he wanted to make this movie, he wanted a married couple to actually be the main characters, because this whole movie was about the psychodrama tension of people cheating on each other and getting bored with each other and, you know, fucking around. Like, especially these two characters, like all their material needs are met. He's a doctor in Manhattan and she's like this homemaker and mother, and they have this cool apartment and all these rich friends, and they're just miserable people, mainly because they have all this sexual psychodrama. But then when you look into like, where did Stanley Kubrick get the idea for this? It was a book written 100 years ago, essentially, based on Freudian's then new ideas about sex, men and women. That's what this story was based on, that book. I forget what it's called. Let me use this computer thing here because it always tells. Oh, Trauma Novel, which means dream story, written by Arthur Schnitzler in 1926. But the book was actually set at like the turn of the last century. And it was all based on Freudian psychology around sex and men and women, which is present in the movie, even though it was moved 100 years into the 1999. But yeah, so it was. But this is what Stanley Kubrick wanted. He wanted to film it with two leads that were actual husband and wife, because he wanted that real tension of like, oh, these people are familiar with each other. They've obviously had arguments maybe like this before, and he got exactly what he wanted. And he did, of course, a lot of the Stanley Kubrick classic stuff, like make Tom Cruise walk through a door 98 times. The right take, and practically had Nicole Kidman naked most of the movie, which was odd because Nicole Kidman is incredibly waif-like and thin. So it was kind of weird just to see her standing there delivering dialogue with just like panties and a bra on. It's like, this woman must weigh 50 pounds. Like, she's really... I forgot about that. I rewatched the movie right before the show, and I forgot about some of the strange stuff. And it was lighted weird and uncomfortable. Everything was on display in this movie. There was all kinds of weird stuff. And the orgy at the end... Or at the
it's not really the end. It's like
the last third.
It's like 40 minutes from the end. Yeah. It's the big action scene of the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. So 3/4 of the way through the movie, they have this really cool orgy, which I've always said, if I ever had a lot of money, I'd be doing shit like this because I could. Because why not? And then, of course, it had Sidney Pollack in it, that's an actor I've always liked because of this movie. Basically playing a Sidney Pollack character. I don't know. Is he still around?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's not important. And then that guy who played the what's the guy? The guy who owned the costume shop. I've seen him in a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's like a Croatian actor or something. But he always plays a crazy Russian, because wasn't he in Snatch? Did he play the crazy Russian in that?
Maybe. I can't. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. That also came out in '99, didn't it? We'll have to watch. We'll have to watch.
Wasn't that the
movie.
guy from like Midnight Meat Train and shit like that, or is that?
No, that's Vinnie Jones.
Okay.
No, this guy's name is Raid Serbelajida or something. So anyway, your thoughts on the movie?
Oh, I don't like this movie at all.
Oh, you don't like this movie?
No. I thought, it's wonderfully shot, and it definitely has a an art-like look to it, because it's Stanley Kubrick. But the subject matter, I just don't care for it. But I'm also not married, so there's nothing for me to identify with this movie. I'm not married, I'm not rich, and I'm not that bored, so I don't have anything to identify with this movie with whatsoever.
And all the porn I can find on the internet is way better.
Yeah, I can find way better porn.
Yeah, I like my porn with a story. I guess.
It's this movie's also like almost 3 hours long. But yeah, there's things I appreciate about it. But yeah, I don't like. I But yeah, I just like this is the second time I've seen this movie. Like
I've seen this movie like 50 times.
I just don't.
I mean, it's not my favorite Stanley Kubrick.
Oh fuck no.
No, I
mean,
it,
in fact, it is my least favorite Stanley Kubrick movie.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, Barry Lyndon and this, they're kind of neck and neck. Well, I never saw Lolita or Killer's Kiss or whatever that one was.
Those are kind of weird because they're Kubrick movies, but they're also a product of their time too.
Yeah, I mean, he's working for somebody. He's not working for himself.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, you can see some of the stamp of Kubrick, but it's like, no, this isn't like Full Metal Jacket or Clockwork Orange. Well, see, Kubrick's someone who, I don't know what part of his career this is other than the end, which I don't think anyone knew until he died. I don't know, because Kubrick's one of those weird guys where it's like Dr. Strangelove and Clockwork Orange, because I've read both the books that those are based on. It's like, oh, that's Kubrick in his satire phase. Like, that's a weird, like, he's just making, I mean, Stanley Kubrick, Dr. Strangelove is like one of the best satires of American culture during the Cold War I've ever seen. And Clockwork Orange is one of the best satires of like the British plan for a better tomorrow that I've ever seen, because they also have there's books that they're based on, which like, oh, this is way different than the book, but it uses all the same characters and kind of follows the same story. And then like The Shining is just, I'm gonna make a horror film, but I'm gonna make it like an artist would make a horror film, because it's based on a novel too. And then I don't know what you'd call this, because like Full Metal Jacket was his war movie, and I don't know what this is, because I always thought like this was a movie from the 70s that got made in the late 90s, because
this is his Basic Instinct.
Kind of, I guess. I don't know. This is one of those movies. It's like, because they had like erotic films in the 70s.
Well, there was a bunch in the 90s too. Like, you had Basic Instinct and there's a bunch of them. Like there was.
Yeah, but this follows the formula more of something earlier, or Basic product of its time, whereas this seems like a throwback to another genre of, when like what was that movie? Like Deep Throat was actually a popular movie, and essentially a porn movie, but it was seen as having enough artistic merit. It's like, wow, this might be something to really watch too. And so this seems more like something from that time frame than like a Basic Instinct, which has a lot of sex and nudity too.
Well, yeah, something I was trying to make a thesis for our Films of '99 series, and I was trying to like, because a lot of the stuff we watch is like, oh yeah, this is definitely a pre 9/11 movie, and it's like, well, what does that mean? And I was kind of working down to like, I was thinking like it's a lot of movies of it's pointless cynicism. And what I mean by that is like, you look at movies like the 60s and 70s, like a lot of shit was going on, and they had very cynical movies, and there was a lot of important shit going on, but they still had very cynical movies. But like this point, it seemed to be like the time didn't feel important, so a lot of filmmakers were going out of their way to make things very cynical, and they're trying. That's why a lot of movies of '99 like, are original and stuff like that, but they kind of just don't necessarily have a point, because the point of it's pointless. It's like Seinfeld almost.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to be edgy, but they don't have anything to rail against. So it's just kind of like pointless cynicism. Okay.
So you think this is a movie? A lot of these movies are movies of a society too satisfied with itself. That doesn't have enough of a wall pressing against them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, we're just bored and rich.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man, you're right. That's actually a good idea. I like that. But yeah, so what do you think, Andrew?
Well, I've never seen this movie all the way through to completion. I have probably seen a third of it at the best of times. I've always found it confusing and not for me, and too slow paced to keep my interest. And the orgy's definitely the best part of the movie, just because tits. And I've always kind of hated Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman as a couple because, one, he's definitely not straight, and two, Nicole Kidman, like you pointed out, is the wisp stick with hair and an accent and a nose. So I have no appeal to this movie. I've only wanted to see it for the famed orgy scene, saw it, and then after that immediately discarded it.
Well, you know what my favorite part, if we're going to talk about the orgy scene, because you have to, my favorite part of that was not the TNA. My favorite part of it was the weird chanting.
Whoa.
That's actually Romanian prayers recorded backwards, and then the guy running around with the mitre, and then women just unrobing and being totally naked. The nakedness and that stuff.
And they have masks, and they're like trading a kiss to each other through masks.
See, but that with the music and like the almost like cardinal. I would play the music on here because I think it's so cool, but
we'll get a YouTube. Yeah, we'll get a strike.
Fuck you. But yeah, the I don't like it just for its sex. I like it for its weirdness.
Yeah,
deliciously weird and beautifully shot.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
cool as hell.
Well, it's like you thought. I was thinking about the series also. You like saying, "Oh, Stanley Kubrick has never made a bad movie," and even though I don't like this movie, I think that holds true.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, see, I appreciate the pace and the storytelling of this movie, but I found in our talks about a lot of movies, it's like I must be either really patient or just I don't know, because I like movies that move like this sometimes, as long as I know there's a payoff. And the first time I watched this movie, I really felt like, oh, there's going to be a payoff for this. And then I thought there was. I mean, it wasn't a guy rappelling from a helicopter shooting people, but it was like, oh, this thing, it just gets progressively weirder and weirder and weirder. And the conversations that they have.
Well, it's like, yeah, there's that scene when they're playing, well, they're not playing pool. They're standing around a pool table.
Right.
And that's like the scene that's kind of just a cold water in your face. It's like, here's what's really going on. Because like before that scene happens, you're led to believe almost anything. Like all this X-Files shit is like happening. Like people are dying, he's being followed. Like what the fuck's going on? Taxi cabs are running away from him.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, they built New York in London because Stanley Kubrick doesn't like to travel.
Oh.
Good for him.
No, I mean, I agree with you guys where it's beautifully shot, and I think it's a great aspect of the film. But at the same, with Nathan's comment about like us not being able to be patient enough for a payoff or patient enough for anything else.
Well, he's not accusing we're not patient. It's just kind of like those kinds of movies appeal to Nathan.
Well,
yeah,
but
I
also,
I understand why people don't like them.
But also at the same time, there's no movies that. I mean, there's some movies still like Annihilation is slower paced, or while there's not really like. I mean, there's some payoffs here and there, but it's like more slower paced and it has more story to it. It's not.
Well, here I have a question. Like, when you first saw this movie, or like a quarter of it or 3/4 of it, did you know who Stanley Kubrick was?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was wondering that because like I only watched this movie because it's a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah.
If somebody else directed this and it was like a movie with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, I wouldn't give a shit.
I don't think it would be received or even projected the same. Even if it was scene for scene the same movie. It's like Bill Tuttle made this film. Psycho sex drama with Nicole Kidman. Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't be writ large into the film. This is a classic. It would be like, oh, this is a weird U-turn in Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise's career, and probably led to the destruction of their marriage. It wasn't Scientology at all. But because Stanley Kubrick did this, it did get a stamp on it. You're right. Yeah, it did kind of get this. Oh, we got to see this because this guy is the the ultimate auteur of filmmaking in America, and he lives in England.
Well,
but also, like last week, we watched The Ninth Gate, which has weird similarities with this movie.
Yes, it does.
And like that was still a slow-paced movie, but I enjoyed that more
Yeah, I enjoyed
because
Ninth
like
Gate.
that's like because all the details in it are like leading to a mystery. Where here it's just like here's some details. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's kind of well, that's what I like because this
It's
movie.
you have to write the movie yourself.
Yeah, you fill in.
And when I filled in the blanks, it was shit.
Oh, watch it again and try to come up with some better stories.
No, I mean I like the Ninth Gate better too, and that is more of a thinking movie. It's not action payoff all the time either. I always thought it was weird when I saw it the first time too, but I've seen Ninth Gate like 3 or 4 times, and I appreciate that movie more than I've been able to appreciate Eyes Wide Shut.
Well, let me tell you what I don't like about the Ninth Gate versus this movie.
There's 9 gates to 8.
No. That movie has a great like build. The Ninth Gate I'm talking about, but it has supernatural payoff. I'm not into the supernatural payoff. Yeah. I like the mundane human evil because it's like that's real. Okay, we're not going to all fuck Satan. Sorry, folks. It's not going to happen. But stuff like this and happening in the Hamptons, oh yeah, I can totally believe this goes on. Cuz I'm sure something like it does. So yeah, that's why maybe I prefer this movie more. I mean, there's a lot of different things we could talk about, differences between the two of them, but this does not have the supernatural payoff. But it's evil so complete. It's almost like, oh, this is what Satan would really be like on Earth. He would do stuff like this if he was real, or she, or it, or whatever.
Yeah, I think this also because you like to get into that conspiracy mindset, and this movie I think is a better realization of some sort of conspiracy mindset you already have.
Yeah,
and it does it very well. Like when you
Each.
just imagine the rich sex orgy, you're going to this movie. You don't have to build the sets and do the character work. It's there for you. Stanley Kubrick made it.
Yep, it's all there. It's all perfect. It's like, yes, this is what we're doing.
This is a documentary.
Yeah. At this point, it's a launching pad for a sad career peddling conspiracies on the internet.
No, I've only before I saw any part of this movie, I'd only seen Full Metal Jacket. I hadn't even seen Shining yet. Okay. I had seen The Shining in like early 2000s. But I mean, other than that, like I've only seen Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and part of this movie. I've never watched any of their.
Doctor Strangelove.
What?
Doctor Strangelove?
No, I haven't watched that.
Okay.
You let me borrow it once. I just never got around to it.
Oh, and
I haven't watched Space.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, I haven't watched that either.
It was basically Clockwork Orange was the theme song of my teenage.
2001.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, love that one. Yeah, that's got great
meaning to get to all of those films, but just never.
If you don't mind, if you're into long movies or short, interesting movies with fast pacing and an engaging plot, 2001.
Well, that's the thing. Whenever, I think this is kind of like the least. Maybe Barry Lyndon too. That was more of a technical achievement. But like anytime Stanley Kubrick make a movie, it's like a tent pole in the movie industry. It's like this is how we're all making movies now.
Yep.
And this was like kind of the first movie where it's like, no, that's okay, Stanley. We're not making movies this way.
We're okay with the gratuitous nudity. That's totally fine. What's not fine is that you take an hour and a half to get to it.
Yeah. Well, again, by the time he wanted to make this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And so by the time, and because of his weird internal clock or whatever, by the time he did this, it's like like you said, Paul Verhoeven already did this, kind of. We've seen this shocking stuff all this time. It's shocking to see Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, who are big stars, kind of do this sort of work. But it didn't. This did not revolutionize filmmaking in any way, except Stanley Kubrick died, and now everyone can ape him. He can't accuse anyone of being unoriginal because he's dead.
I just think films today, like everybody expects there to be something immediate payoff all the time. There's always got to be an immediate payoff every 10 to 15 minutes, either in some form of either the story moving forward, changing location, some huge action scene, or just...
Well, yeah, that's kind of theater movies. But like you said, Annihilation was very slow. And like that movie, You Were Never Really There,
Yeah.
That movie's slow as shit. I mean, you do get some cool action scenes where you just...
No, I know, but it's still a good movie.
And they don't... And it basically almost doesn't tell a story. You completely have to read into it.
Yeah.
But like I said, like when I wrote the story for You Were Never Really There, I wrote what I thought was a cool movie.
No, and there's still good movies being made that are more like Eyes Wide Shut, where it's slower, you write your own narrative, it's a thinking movie where you actually have to think about what's going on, it's not spelled out for you. And those movies are great, but they don't get made because they don't make money.
Yeah. Although there's also...
Well, this kind of storytelling, I mean, a snapshot of what movies are nowadays, because I mean, the last movie I saw in the theater, I think, was Annihilation. A snapshot of where this kind of storytelling is right now is like Netflix, Amazon, HBO.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to make $100 million movies like this anymore because everyone wants to see Captain Jumbo and the
Captain America and Dumbo combined together. Captain Jumbo.
That's what they want to see.
Yeah, and then
Captain Jumbo, the most racist movie you'll ever see this year.
Right. And then for like science fiction, even on TV now, you've got, Battlestar Trek Wars. It's like, oh, and we're just gonna mix all the genres and the one Jackass to subvert your expectations. It's like, yeah, that's the state of the tentpole properties right now. So if you want this kind of storytelling, you need Netflix, Amazon, HBO.
And like, if this was made today, maybe it would be a TV series where like you kind of draw out the
so everybody would DVR to the 5th episode where the orgy takes place.
No, there'd just be every episode there'd be a sex orgy somewhere.
Or just people screwing in the background while the foreground characters are talking, not paying attention to it as the focus fades in and out between fore and back.
Is this directed by the Zucker brothers or what?
They're talking about...
They do the best background gags.
They're talking about Jeremy's failing grades in math while a couple 69s behind him in the window. Like,
New Oscar category, best background orgy. There's like 12 nominees.
Game of Thrones.
Surprisingly, not. I mean, it has some. I mean, I think all their orgy scenes seem to be in the middle seasons. They don't have a lot of.
Yeah, it's only with like Littlefinger and his like sex factory.
Yeah, sex output. Fuck for efficiency.
But no, I mean, there's definitely a place for it, and I appreciate those type of things. Like what one of the notes you have on here on the side where it says "Love, Death, and Robots." Like so far, except for one episode on there, like I have fucking loved every single one of those fucking things.
Yeah, the only one I don't like is the Werewolf Marine Corps one.
Yeah, that was kind of fucking weird. I still appreciated it a little bit, but
I'm just gonna quit the Marine Corps. Take a body and just run away with it and bury it somewhere. Yeah, they just let you do that. I mean, he is a werewolf. What are you gonna do? But
it's like a Japanese cartoon thing you're talking about.
No, this is a anthology short film series on Netflix that is kind of done in as an homage to heavy metal.
Oh, okay.
And there's a couple Alistair Reynolds short stories are some of the stories.
Oh, wow.
And one of his is the most affecting, which kept in mind, it's Beyond the Aquila Rift.
Okay.
I don't know if you read that one or not.
But... I
have. That one's like, I was like, wait, what happened here? Because like in some ways it's like, okay, this could be really interesting, or it could be really stupid. It's like, if it's just malevolent, then like that sucked. If it's more benevolent, it's like, oh, that's really haunting and weird. But like, okay. And then like I saw a YouTube video and they explained it, and it's like, he's just food. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And then I went to Reddit and they're saying like, yeah, we read the story. It's like, yeah, they're all trapped there. They're trying to get out, and like, she's just trying to make this not so much of a nightmare for them.
Oh. Well, because I mean, I got more of the aspect of it that they were food, but at the same time, I mean, I think that's the imagery put forward. So
yeah, because it's basically like she's like a space spider essentially, and like these things all get caught.
Where
in her
else
web.
can you see somebody lick champagne off the tits of a space spider? I mean, I don't know where else I could see that.
Which story are they shooting in that from Beyond the Aquila Rift?
Oh,
that's a book of short stories.
I thought I was hoping that was the name of the short story, but they just call that segment is called Beyond the Aquila Rift. And then the other one they do is Zima Blue.
Okay, that's the one where she goes into the. It's like the organism is a ocean, and she steps into it because she can do math better because they'll reprogram her brain.
And this one, it's an artist who like creates like portraits of the universe, and always puts a blue dot somewhere.
Oh, okay, that was the other one. Okay, yeah, those are both short story anthologies. So,
And then I didn't care for the Junkyard one. I thought that one was pretty stupid.
I appreciated that one for just being like a weird set piece. The only one I didn't like was the third episode because I, like, artistically that our episode was amazing and like it did really awesome like live action / animation type segments with it, with like, hey, this person killed somebody and they saw me and I'm running for them, and then it all ends up at the back of the same place, but this time it flips and I kill them.
Yeah.
And now they see me from across and we're gonna do this all over again.
Yeah, I kind of like. Do you think like some of that was live action? Because that's
I
thought either it was really well done animation or that's just live action.
I think it was actually like somewhat live action with like like cell shading over it and stuff like that.
Because I thought they were doing some stuff is like okay, this is pure animated, and sometimes it just looked like they like put wallpaper up to look like it was animated. I was like, oh, this is just live action footage, but like they blend it so well that you can't. It's hard to tell.
That's why I liked that part, but the story wise, I wasn't.
Yeah, it was
a fan.
just.
I mean,
yeah,
the first episode is fucking amazing. Like I fucking love the first episode.
I can't remember what the first one is because I think they actually they switch it around for different accounts.
Oh.
So you see a different order depending on your account.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, the first one for me was the woman that has like the tragic story of being raped and saved. And
okay,
she's
that was
like
my
a battle,
first one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like a battle like engine or whatever, but instead it's actually the creature that's alive and just occupying her brain. I thought that was kind of fucking funny. I thought my wife would be like really uncomfortable watching like a lesbian like like go, because she's her friends with plenty of people, but at the same time she always tells me like, oh, girl on girl, like, yeah. It's just like fucking.
So what we're saying, Nathan, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah, the second episode's fucking hilarious.
Is that the one with the cats at the end? The
robots?
Cat. Okay.
Well, yeah, because like they're just fucking talking about like, oh yeah, humans, this bounce ball thing. It's just like that in the diner. It's like, why would you have just a vat of acid on the inside? That makes no sense. It's fucking stupid. So yeah, it's that, and like the exploding cat joke is kind of funny and shit. So I mean, they're.
And then I really like that one where it's like it's animated, but it's like steampunk. But it's like the girl who's like a weird wolf thing.
Oh, yeah.
That one was pretty sad.
I actually wanted to see more. I mean, I know they're all shorts and that's what they're supposed to be.
Oh, this also seems like this is like a progenitor to series getting made.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because it was like, there's like 2 or 3 of these that, especially like the earlier ones, like the first one, the farm episode, with like the alien invasion and shit, even though it's like just they've actually colonizing a planet, they're getting invaded and shit. And then fucking, the one you're talking about, the Japanese, like, demon that slowly turns back into a human, but then runs off as a mechanical wolf now. Like, yeah, that would be fucking cool as a series. I would watch that. So, I don't know if Netflix might, like, see the view numbers on stuff and be like, maybe we should put some more money into this. And,
yeah, we'll see.
Do actual full series.
I mean, like...
Netflix doesn't have problems putting money into development.
Yeah.
We put more money into development last year than U.S. theaters made and something like that.
But yeah, I remember like Liquid Television. That was like a progenitor for a lot of stuff because like Beavis and Butthead was a short on Liquid Television. Eon Flux was a short. I think The Head was a short on Liquid Television.
Oddly, maybe? I remember The Head, but I don't remember Beavis and Butthead that early on.
Oh yeah. It was really weird. You could tell it's the same family of animation, but yeah, early Beavis and Butthead was strange.
Well, because I know early Beavis and Butthead in general has the same character. It's basically Hank Hill, but without the fucking hat. Yeah. Like the same voice. I mean, obviously Mike Judge
Mr. Vickers.
Yeah,
something like that.
I always thought... Sorry.
But yeah, the Liquid Television versions like usually had Beavis and Butthead getting killed at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, because I never saw any of those.
Because there was like the one where it was like it was Frog Baseball, and then like Butthead ends up like cutting Beavis's finger with a chainsaw at some point. And there's one where they go to a truck rally and then they get covered in a pile of shit and die or something.
I still remember the one where it was some crappy rock band, and the dude was like, "Play some Skynyrd, man." That became like the clarion call of our teenage year, 20s. And then the whole time the band was playing, the guy was going like this. Like, yeah, that's definitely early form. I always thought Aeon Flux was amazing, but only on Liquid Television.
Oh, yeah.
They did to it when they made it into a series.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to make it a story, and it just this doesn't connect. I just like
that universe is so weird. Fucking weird.
Yeah, I like the random weirdness though on Liquid Television.
Yeah.
Versus the actual.
And she died every episode in horrible ways.
Yeah, because I borrowed the MTV one from you, and I watched like the first 2 episodes. I'm like, this was popular. I don't
know. Yeah, it's hard to say it's popular because they only made 1 season of it, but
it was striking.
Yeah, it's like if you said what that was, people knew what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and also like that animation style, like it was very striking, and like no one ever really copied it since. Except I think he did some series called like Alexander, and it was like on Adult Swim for like a season, and like it looked like Aeon Flux because the same guy did the artwork, but like people like don't. It's very weird and unsettling artwork, but it was very interesting.
That was cool about Aeon Flux was how unsettling it was. Like when she's climbing up the building and she's got to like turn her whole body around, so she just goes in her back and like takes some switch, and it like part of her spine comes out.
Yeah.
Artificial, and she just twists her whole body like an owl to climb through this thing. It's like, oh, that is so organic and terrifying. But yeah, Eyes Wide Shut. Check it out. Well, I gotta go, guys.
All right.
So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, Nathan,
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.